all right, what are they going to do to keep people from picking up the pitchforks and storming the castle? So how do we protect ourselves during this short-term phase?
Honestly, I do think there needs to be some type of safety net, right, for people, right? Because I think when people get desperate is when things get bad from a violent perspective. But I think it's also funny that when I talk to certain people that they don't think this is already happening.
Oh, it's already happening. Oh, I'm in the recruiting space. Trust me, it's happening.
Yeah. And I'm like this return to work and in the office, like I am somebody who loves being around people. So like I'm always in an office because I physically like need that interaction. But they're using it as a way to cut 20% of their staff without having to use the word AI. And I was really nervous for a while there with the tariffs and all of that, taking politics out of it, because it provides cover for more like leaders to say like, hey, like it's not about AI. It's about the fact that we have to maintain, like for us to maintain like a viable company, we have to reduce staff. And they're going to use AI in the meantime. And then when it comes to hire again, you can't rationalize it. And it's not wrong. It's just, we need some safety nets, and it's already happening.
Okay, so this is going to be the highlight clip of this whole episode.
I usually, just so we're clear, I usually make people buy me a drink, and I make them have a drink in their hand for this conversation because I feel like I might terrify them.
It's real. It's real. If anybody listening to this episode, if you think executives aren't regularly meeting right now to talk about how to hire less people or eliminate human jobs that are tactically redundant with AI, you are kidding yourself. I guarantee you it's happening across the country on a regular basis. And you're absolutely right. They're not talking about it. They're trying to keep it on the down low. They're making up other bullshit excuses. Listen, they're all held by profits and the stock market and whatever. And if they can if they can be faster, more efficient, and more profitable with AI, they're going to do it. And to your point, they're not trying to be bad people. It's not like they're evil. They're tasked to run a profitable company. And guess what? This tool came in that can make them faster and more efficient, more profitable. They're going to use it. Yeah. And if they don't, their competitors will use it and they'll crush them.
Yep, 100%. It's prisoner's dilemma. For sure.
It's happening. And I'm sorry, I just need to finish this rant. I'm in the recruiting space. If anybody thinks that white collar jobs aren't being affected right now, you're living on some weird fantasy planet. I don't care what kind of bullshit unemployment stats are spit out there right now. White collar jobs that are done with a laptop are being affected by AI. I promise you it's happening, and it's going to get worse. Sorry, I just needed to get that rant out there.
No, but I think they're right on. And I think, you have the people who are utilizing the return to work, macroeconomic things to kind of help reduce some of the staff count. But then I think you're also seeing, like, I would argue, like, I know the Shopify CEO memo got leaked in terms of where you have to prove that AI can't.
I think
before you add, and I'm like, he's right. And not only
that's what they're all doing. That's what they're all doing.
The responsible thing to do. You shouldn't be hiring. And that's also what you're saying. You're not necessarily some companies are maybe not necessarily firing, but they're not hiring as quickly, or they're not backfilling. And I think that's the responsible thing to do. It's not like bringing somebody in to then turn around and let them go is not beneficial for anyone anyways. And so
totally agree. Somebody called me the other day and they're like, well, that's not the right thing to do. That's not the humanistic thing to do. I'm like, bro, you are missing. I hate to tell you this, but the world evolves around money, at least for right now, and they're going to do the right thing for profits. Period.
Well, and they have to, because, like you said, if not, it's a prisoner's dilemma. They're more actually larger companies. I think are much better. Or actually, their size is actually a disadvantage during this transition period, because they're scared of the mid-sized companies who are more nimble, who don't have as much red tape or bureaucracy to actually integrate AI, not from a like light switch software rollout, but from like a strategic rethinking of how they do business.
Yep. And
they're going to be able to undercut on price, and they're going to be able to offer a superior product. And so
it's happening.
It's kind of like, adapt or perish in a way.
So what do we do? How do we get there? And I've done a lot of posts on this. How do we help the workers adapt? Okay. So
Yeah.
let's use paralegals, copywriters. I mean, we could go on and on, right? We could list a shit ton of them. And they've done it for 20 years and now they're 48 years old. And all of a sudden what they've done for 25 years is wiped off the face of the planet. I mean, those are the people I'm most worried about. If you're 25 years old, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But if you're 48 years old, you're 50, and you've done the same thing for 30 years and that job's gone and retirement's still 10, 15 years away, and I'm not a socialist guy, right? I'm not a big believer in just passing out checks, but we're going to have to do something.
Yeah. And I think the truth matter is like there is a bit of reskilling that can be done, but there are certain people who either can't be reskilled or don't want to be reskilled.
Or don't want to, or they're just too old and they're almost done.
Now, I will say my dad actually who's in his 70s attended my AI course at Rice. He sat in on it. And now he, like, every time he goes to like a charity lunch or wherever, he's constantly being like, hey, did you know about this? Have you tried this? And I'm like, I'm actually proud. Thanks, Dad. But I think there's two things.
Yeah,
is like, just experiment.
Please
Don't
do.
see AI as your enemy, potentially leverage it as your friend in a way, right? So when you think about it, and I talk to some advertising agencies that used to be in that space and who are like really concerned because it's very applicable.
Yes.
And so we'll talk about it. And I'm like, guys, like, listen, at the end of the day, if you were to start utilizing AI in your process and pass on some of the benefits in terms of cost savings, faster turnaround time, and take the liability off the client, they will still maintain you as a client, right? So you have to rethink your business model, how you add value. And I think the other part about it is, and I have my students do this oftentimes where I actually have them use AI like their boss would or somebody else would in their organization or one of their clients, and then rethink and redline, like literally take the output and redline and identify what are the nuances that are being missed. How does your experience, how does your knowledge coupled with AI actually produce something far better, and leaning into that. And then for those who are in their 40s and 50s who may be feeling like this is starting to like kind of, they're concerned about what's next, I would say also AI is going to take away a lot of jobs, but it's also going to create a huge opportunity for entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Take your domain expertise, think about the problems, the friction points, how AI can help solve them, and lean into it. I mean, I started, my business in 2013 where I had access to Google, which I thought was like the best thing since sliced bread because I could teach myself a lot of things. But it's now even easier, right? Like my lawyer that I work with, my business lawyer, I joke he's going to change his pricing model with me as a client because his billings for me have gone down significantly, not because I'm doing less per se, but because I'm like, oh, I've already run this through like 3 different models. Here are the 4 questions I really care about. And I'm not spending all that time being like, hey, help me understand. And it's a lot shorter of a conversation. And so I'm like, you got to change your price. But so as an entrepreneur, like all of these things have gotten so much easier. All these barriers are starting to erode. You look at Y Combinator and I think Cursor, for example, I think they've got 100 million in annual recurring revenue. And I think they've got like 25 employees or something like that, right? It's just the scalability and like you don't have to have as much capital to start out as you did 10 years ago, where you have to be like, okay, we're going to scale. I need to grow. It takes me 6 months to onboard somebody or 3 months to onboard somebody. So if I'm expecting this peak here versus now you're like, hey, I'm going to integrate AI into the process. So my employee who was doing this can now take on 50% more, not because I'm making him work 50% longer. It's because the models have gotten better and we've trained it a little bit. And so he can actually produce more.
All that is excellent advice, especially if your goal, in my opinion, should be how do you get through the short-term messy period? What do you do to pivot and change and learn new things and adapt to get through this weird transitional period we're floating into?